Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are premiering, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy, and this is a particular note if you drive an electric vehicle. Speaking of Patreons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon, so a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Cannabear, Adam Price, Fibre Oats, Bogey, Michael Kahn, Rob H, Ben White, Maximum Gravy, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Mel B Styles, Troy Shuker, Maris, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Lost Cat FE, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Muted, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Liam Nedrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
But babies have that when they're in the womb.
What?
What's their external input?
No, they don't. That's wrong.
How do you know that?
They can feel.
What?
They've still got their nervous system, hearing. They've got various different things that they still experience.
What do you define as a baby? Hold on a sec. The baby, when it's two cells, is there an experience there?
I don't bloody know.
You just don't want to say no.
Probably not.
What's next? Have my sperms got feelings?
No, because that's just part of your chromosomes. That's just information.
I think at the
we're
point,
more than information.
I think at the point of fertilization, that is where the magic of life begins. Experience, if you want to justify it in that way. So while I say I don't know, I'd like to believe that at that point, yeah, that's life. That is life.
But like while you were unconscious, right?
It's life when
still
sperm hit.
breathing. You were still breathing. Your heart was still beating. Your brain was still doing functions, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Physiologically, my brain's still doing all the things it needs to do to tell my liver to do what it does and heartbeat. And yeah, absolutely.
I think it's
Now,
just
to
the
be
way
fair,
you define
the brain,
consciousness then.
check this out. The brain itself, the physical brain, is still receiving the autonomous nervous system response, right? So if you poke somebody, that electrical signal still acts like it normally would, still goes up to your spine, still goes up to your brain. And then when it gets to your brain, it just doesn't make it to the sentient observer. However, that translation would occur if you were conscious.
How do you know that, citation, please? And don't show me no cartoons.
I'm sure you could
Hold on.
I'm sure you could have somebody demonstrate that by way of brain
You
scan
can measure
on
the
somebody who's in a
continuity.
coma.
Yeah, exactly. You can measure the continuity.
Right.
But that's great. That just demonstrates the point. You are the ghost in the machine.
Same with babies. The same with babies. It's like they do that with babies, right? And then they can see the baby respond. That's how they know that the babies have sentient awareness of external factors.
Well,
Okay,
they
let's
say
try
there was
let's
this
try a
one
different way.
abortionist.
Let's try it a different way. So you say that there's because there's a process. Let's boil it down to much more simplistic terms. If you want to call this a false equivalence, fine. I'll take that on the chin if it comes my way. Hold on one sec. So where was I? What was I talking about?
The process is your last
If you've
word.
got a computer that's running a game and there's no monitor connected, there's no sound, there's no speakers connected, there's no monitor connected, but the game's running, the graphics card's running, the CPU's running, The motherboard's sending everything where it needs to go. It's gathering the data from the hard drive, processing the game, running the game, but there's no monitor and no sound. That's the equivalent.
It's more like a monitor. It's more like a monitor that has the connection to the hardware, right? With all the signals still coming through the pipeline, but when they get to the monitor's switched off. So the monitor is receiving all the signals. It just isn't doing anything with them.
Yeah, but
Yeah, same thing.
Hold on a second. Hold on. You're missing something. What does a computer need to be useful?
Say again?
What does a computer need to be useful?
Somebody to interact with it.
Yeah. Who's interacting with you?
When I'm on the floor unconscious. My wife, I suppose.
No.
Okay, yeah. So imagine you turn the computer screen on. Okay, in his analogy.
No. Hold on, Citation.
Who's on the other side of the screen?
Hold on. I think John was going somewhere with that. Go on, John.
Right. Who is interacting with your physical body? Because you aren't just your physical body.
Bingo. That's the real you.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. The babies, the personality that exists already.
What about the survival? And what about the survival? I seen this video. I don't know how true it is, but it was an abortion clinic, and they got videos of them when they're going to inject. The baby jumps out of the way, kind of like knowing that they're trying to kill it.
Maybe. It's pretty deep.
That's besides the point, though.
Yeah, it is kind of non sequitur.
The point is you still need the user, right? Like in religion, they call it spirit, call it consciousness when you're trying to be, it's kind of a metaphysical thing, so you can kind of tie it to the physical, but you still need the user. And just because your connection to your meat puppet was lost doesn't mean you stopped existing.
Right, but you did stop experiencing. At least from our experience, we experience it as a lack of experience. Just like Nathan said earlier, that's the only way he could describe it, is a lack of experience.
If the experience itself is what defines you as a being, then you've got a contradiction in terms when you say that you carry on, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, you could take this as an argument against reincarnation or everlasting life or life after death.
Yep. Well, the person that you is, would then have to, to check it out. You would have to cease to exist, right, when you're not experiencing, and then come into existence again when you're experiencing a return. So you would actually be a separate instance from the previous one. So you would be born when you become conscious again, essentially.
No, y'all are going down a path that doesn't make sense.
That's how I'd describe it, though.
Yeah, that's my point. That's my point. It doesn't seem intuitively to make sense.
That is how I described it, though, wasn't it? You're paraphrasing what I said before I started recording. Yeah, that is how I would describe it, as much as John disagrees.
What I'm saying is you need, like, as atheists, right, when they're describing it, it's like the ghost in the machine, how they describe the spirit. But it's still there. It has to be, because you're functioning.
Okay, well, if you put that as an analogy for the computer, it means that the game is still on the hard drive, but all of the equipment used to run the hard drive has all failed and died. So the graphics card's broken, the monitor's broken. It might still be on the hard drive.
No, that's not the same. You needed that individual to interact with that computer.
Fair enough.
Who's playing the game if nobody's playing the game?
Well, then there is no game. And if it's analogous to, if the game is the life in the analogy, then no game, no life. Anyway, this is depressing.
No, yeah, that was a non sequitur conclusion too. Just because I'm not playing a game doesn't mean I'm not alive.
Yeah, what kind of sneak attack was that starting at 8:02?
I've got a hospital appointment, so I've got to finish early.
But to flat Earth, apparently, if you take the flat Earth angle measurement and you go to the opposite of that angle measurement and you double it, the Earth's no longer flat.
There
Or
you
if you
go.
take the measurement from the star.
Exactly. That doesn't have a physical position in either mathematics.
Yeah, so they're attacking a non sequitur red herring. But it's not even ours. It's a non sequitur red herring aimed towards celestial navigation. So it's like, at the end of that, if they put that to me, I'd be like, and? What are you doing? Trying to debunk celestial navigation that's used the world over? It's like, so what? Why are you telling me this?
Well, I think in their mind that if it's not possible if they can debunk it working on a flat Earth in the way that they think it works on a flat Earth, then it has to be a globe.
But
Now, tell me how dumb that sounds.
But when you say, if they can debunk it working on a flat Earth, it is flat Earth angle measurements. So you're saying if they can get flat Earth angle measurements to not work on a flat Earth, then they've debunked flat Earth and the Earth's a globe?
Yes. Anything.
Is that not the dumbest idea of like a rebuttal you've ever heard?
That's what they're
It's
doing.
like saying,
I'm breaking it down off your, description. I'm summarising your description. But that is what's happening. Go on, Flaric. What did you want to add?
Oh, sorry, that was hot mic.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, it's nuts. It's the craziest rebuttal ever. You know how your flat Earth elevation angles don't work on a flat Earth? What? Are you nuts? Yeah, you don't have triangles. Yeah, you do have triangles. Here it is in the celestial navigation. Yeah, but you don't have them. What? The triangles don't work on a flat Earth. No, we're talking about the method of celestial navigation. And it definitely uses triangles. What are you talking about?
Did you see the comment? You see the comment that the guy left on QE show? I'll find it. I'll get right back to you.
Okay.
that's what I was responding to, is Neil posted that comment, and I was like, what? That's just madness.
Oh, you got that? Got it on hand?
Is it in
Where
Master
is
B?
it? I'm working. I got my hand full of
No, tell me where it is and I'll
stuff.
find it. Is it in Master B?
Yes.
Yeah,
I'll
it
go
is,
find it.
Neil. Okay, yeah, I've got it up. Oh, it's too small to read when I present it to the audience, though. I can't read that on my resolution of screen, Neil. It's just too small.
I got
but
this.
John knows what it's about. Go ahead, John. My hands are full of glue.
In simplified terms, when we take a sextant altitude of the sun, we're creating a right triangle. In fact, you are not. You are simply measuring an angle, nothing more, nothing less. Then you are unknowingly using globe Earth math to find a distance.
What?
60. Sorry, I can't.
You're measuring an angle, but it's a principle that you're employing, that you've got a right angle. So yeah, you're measuring an angle, and at the end of the straight line of one of the lines that make that angle is a right angle. I just don't get it.
Hold on,
They're just stupid.
It gets better. How are you using trigonometry on a flat Earth? You have an angle from a sextant and a distance derived from globe math, which perfectly match reality. And then nothing. You make a triangle that does nothing. And if you try to use it, it proves that the flat Earth is impossible.
And when he says, you use a triangle, no, that's how celestial navigation is done. These guys seem to think that they're attacking us. No, you're not. You're making a mockery of celestial navigation, is what you're doing when you criticise it in the way you are, thinking you're attacking us.
They're attacking themselves. That's why John got that bull-jitsu. They are attacking themselves.
I said the angle is only possible from a flat Earth. It can't be a globe because you can't have a curved adjacent. But they're just like whistling past that part and then talking about how they think it would work on a flat Earth.
It being a flat
Even though
Earth
it-
angle measurement. How a flat Earth angle
Yes.
measurement would work on a flat Earth. Let's say it as it is.
Yeah, it's like, it's insanity.
Your angle measurement, only capable of measurement on a flat Earth, doesn't work on a flat Earth. Only works on a globe.
That's mental illness.
Yeah, I've been saying this for a couple of weeks. This is literally insanity. Because they have to concede our side of the position before they can move forward in the discussion. And literally say, these flat Earth angle measurements only work on a globe. That's their argument.
Kind of a non sequitur conclusion there, isn't it?
Well, it's a self-defeating conclusion because the conclusion comes from a premise that defeats the conclusion. These flat Earth angle measurements only work on a globe. That's what the elevation angle argument is, from their perspective.
Right, that's the ball foo fallacy. I've not been able to find a fallacy where you accept the premise as true to express your premise as false.
I mean, I spend a reasonable amount of time looking at fallacies, and I don't, I'm not no expert on fallacies, but by the same token, I'm reasonably well versed with fallacy, and I've been for a number of years, and I have no idea what you could call this because it doesn't equate to something that seems like a logical consistency and has to be broken down by the opponent as fallacious. Like most of the arguments, right? If you don't know that you're begging the question of antipodal star positioning when you move south and say that the stars rotate anti-clockwise, which is ludicrous. Anyway, if you don't understand that they've formed that as a fallacy and can point out what it is, then it sounds like a sound argument. But I don't think, which is why I say there's a descent into madness occurring on the anti-flat Earth side, they can formulate this into anything that sounds even half remotely like a globe proofsy. It never formulates. It never turns into something that the audience goes, oh yeah. You've got the further delusional Muppets like Bob that come and go, that guy just smashed you. What, when he told us all about how he corrected it to a flat Earth? No, he didn't. And no reasonably sane member of the audience is going to hear that and go, yeah, I heard him tell us all about how he corrected his globe Earth faith to flat. And go, yeah, what a winner. I don't see how it can be even a fallacy, even formulated to something that seems like it might make sense to the untrained ear.
That's what I'm saying. There has to be a way to just, like, this has to have form. Nothing this crazy can't be like put into an equation.
I don't see how it can, because it doesn't make sense to prove your point. It doesn't have a end statement that makes the conclusion that the ball is true, because it starts with the premise that it's flat. So you can't say if ball, then antipodal star rotation, therefore ball, when it's if flat Earth angle measurements, then only works on ball. Immediately just saying it makes my head twitch, and it seems like a malformed statement because it's not. It can't even attempt to prove the premise because the initial premise is that it's flat.
I can tell you at least it's a category error because they're conflating, obviously models with the real world. So basically they're saying the real world doesn't comport with my model interpretation of the real world.
That's a reification fallacy then.
Yeah, you have at least two fallacies right there, category error and a reification.
No, they're not asserting it as a model at that point. They're asserting it as a reality. So it can't be a reification.
That's the category error.
Yeah, they're ignoring that. When you say the whistle past it earlier, what you mean by that is they ignore the real world angle measurement that's being used and then take that real world angle measurement that's been measured and start telling you how it won't work on a flat Earth. You go, yeah, but the real world angle measurement was taken from a flat Earth, so how can you say it doesn't work on a flat Earth when that's how it was acquired? The answer is you can't sandwich that into a globe Earth winning argument or fallacy because it doesn't ever make sense for the globe.
Well, it's fallacious logic, is it not?
Where's the logic? Give me the form. Make the elevation angle argument make sense in some way, even if it doesn't make sense and is a fallacy, that at the end of it I could go, oh yeah, I could understand how an idiot in a hurry would be duped by that. Turn it into a statement that anybody would be convinced Earth's a sphere at the end of the discussion, because not once has anybody done it so far. They've all told me how flat they've got to make it.
I think there's a new fallacy in this. I'm going to find it.
Well, we find it after they give us a statement that makes it sound like it's proving a sphere at the end of it. We haven't had any of that yet, though, have we?
No, not yet. I'm still waiting on yeah, it's kind of I don't, it's madness at this point, I guess.
It's sort of like they're grasping at straws.
No, to say they're grasping at straws implies there's a straw there to grasp at.
You took the words out of my mouth. I was just thinking about that. In that metaphor, you've got a drowning man and some straws, i.e. things he could breathe through, on the edge of the thing he's fell into, lake, let's just say. Well, grasping for the straws as you drown means that there's a small hope you might actually get hold of one of those straws, which means there's something to grasp for. That isn't the case here either. What are they grasping for? Because before they move forward in the argument, they've got to accept that if they're implying a sphere, they'll be applying it through a dip correction. And that dip correction, what's that? Correcting it. Correction, you say. All right. What are we correcting again? Correcting so we can take a flat Earth elevation angle, making it flat, so we can make this measurement. So we've got to get it flat first, just to get the angle to move forward to say it doesn't work on a flat Earth. That's, again, like I keep saying, how does that somehow leave the audience in the impression that there's a globe beyond the globe that they've had to correct flat in that particular discussion?
It might be a worldview fallacy, like where they're accepting a worldview as truth and then trying to state it as false.
Well, they are. My son does.
Atheists do it a lot. Like they'll accept an objective truth and then assert that truth is subjective. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Then how does that work? Because my son can't stand
Well,
atheists, but he thinks like an atheist. I don't get it.
Well, that's a category error as well, to say, here's proof of objective truth, and then give an example of subjective truth, or the other way around, say, here's subjective truth by giving an example of objective truth. You're misplacing the presentation with a different category.
No, the statement itself that truth is subjective. If you take it that way as an objective truth, that statement is self-contradictory.
Right. So he requires the antithesis. Because all this sounds very familiar to me in the thesis, antithesis, synthesis. So I was thinking maybe it's called synthetic fallacy, but I looked that up and that has to do with the naturalistic fallacy. So, I mean, there still might be a name for it, but you could always make one up, If you find a new fallacy that no one's named before, guess what? You get to name it.
Well, it's globe
that's what I'm saying, the ball-fu fallacy.
A ball-fu, globe jitsu. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it is.
There's actually a division of martial arts where the master basically teaches the students that there's this energetic force that you could control. And you can watch the students like will be getting thrown around. They'll act like they're getting punched without actually even getting hit. And then an actual fighter will come in and just punch the master right in the face and prove to all the students that it was all an illusion.
Yeah, no hit. I've seen that too.
It's like the tangent line, though. Isn't it? You never see a tangent line in real life. You can draw it on a piece of paper or on a graph or for demonstration purposes, but a tangent line is just an imaginary line, basically. You can't actually see it in physical reality, so you can't
So
use
is
it.
Horizon.
Imaginary straight line that they don't have anymore.
Well, they need
the
a
horizon.
tangent line in order to get a drop angle from, right? So they require the
Exactly.
antithesis before they begin.
Exactly. Black Swan. So as soon as they start arguing for the geometric horizon, this is one step before they get to the geometric horizon, which is a tangent point, i.e. it's got a straight line to it. No, it hasn't, Black Swan. They can't get a drop angle to it. It's all refracted. They can't do dip angle measurements to get geometric horizons at a tangent point to derive R. That's the Black Swan argument. So they don't have any straight lines, they don't have a tangent. But why are they trying to acquire one? Well, so they can correct it flat. They're going to do dip correction with that geometric horizon in this example, aren't they? They're going to correct it all flat using that R value, R based on a angle measurement taken from a flat Earth to get it. To correct it flat so they can make the angle measurement again that they use to infer the sphere that they're saying they've got to correct back to flat. Yes, because that's where it came from.
Well, yeah, but even if we had a geometric horizon, right? Or a horizon that appeared geometric, we couldn't get an angle measurement from a curved adjacent. So it doesn't matter. The horizon's irrelevant at this point.
Yeah,
they're
essentially, it's a bit of obfuscation and confusion because they're saying we're going to take this geometric horizon to put a tangent line to it that's nothing to do with the curve to correct it flat, horizontal. At no point are you using the actual curve of the Earth, though. And if we had, as you say, got a geometric horizon, then we'd have a geometric horizon.
which would make angle measurements impossible. It's nonsensical.
Yeah, it doesn't work if we do have a geometric horizon, but we don't have a geometric horizon.
Yeah, they're 6 ways screwed from next Sunday, and they don't even care.
Guy just decided to straighten up his ladders right up against my window. Thank you very much, buddy.
Not to mention, like we talked about yesterday, is that they're conflating a horizon with horizontal. They're completely two different things.
That's correct.
Anyway, that's why that guy came in the other day, because it is devastating to them. I think they do know.
We're going to go live a quarter of an hour early today, just so you know.
Good morning.
Morning, about 3 or 4 minutes.
Going live.
Don't let that kill the conversation. I just want you to be forewarned.
So why are we going early?
Because I've got an appointment.
Obviously, okay. I thought it was
Because Nathan's mortal.
No, I thought that was going to be like a special presentation by somebody and you needed the time.
No, Nathan's mortal when he was injured.
Gotcha. Take it on the tension.
Indeed.
It's like
Take it on the kitchen.
Even if you look at the word dip, what it means is to lower an item into water or liquid, and that's what you're doing with the sextant. You're lowering it into the water, in this case, on a ship. That's what it means, dip.
It can have a lot of different meanings. It depends on the context. But yeah, I know what you're driving at in this context. But equally, QE came on and argued that he prefers to view it as bringing the line, the horizontal, up to the eye of the observer. So you can look at it either way. But I know what you're driving at. Yeah, dip. You're dipping a tea bag into the water You're bringing your line down to the water to correct the angle.
Yeah, it's
The lady skinny dipping?
it's just to establish a horizontal, and that's why you can use a bubble on an airplane to get that horizontal. And at sea, you need to establish a horizontal. You can't use the bubble section at sea because it's hard to keep it steady. So you use the surface of the earth. So you dip to it. I mean, I don't understand why people are stuck on this.
Well, I'll tell you what,
Proves
Ken,
Earth's flat.
if you take the angle measurement you didn't measure and you double it, you know, that angle you took from a flat Earth, and you double the opposite angle, then it's a globe.
Oh, really? So what happened to the right angle? Did that change in that process?
No, I'm just saying
you're missing the
argument.
subtlety. You're saying, if you take this flat Earth angle measurement that I've taken, and then you do X, Y, and Z with it, then it doesn't work on a flat Earth, even though it's a flat Earth angle measurement. That's their argument in this instance.
Yes. No, I want to show a slide, so that's why I said that, but I'll wait till you do your show.
Yeah, I'm just about to do the intro. Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, how dare you, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy, and this is a particular note if you drive an electric vehicle. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected. And if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by 10th Man, Refracted Curvature, Neil, the Adam Meakin, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Greetings, everyone.
Afternoon, guys.
Hi.
Hi! Good to have you all, you enthusiastic lot. Any evidence that you can acquire an elevation angle from a curved adjacent?
Never. It's never happened. It's impossible. It destroys the English language. The whole meaning is gone.
I think I can formulate their argument a little bit better for them about this. Is the flat Earth angle measurements you've taken, if you don't take them from the adjacent and you go to the opposite and ignore that you've taken them from a flat Earth and you double the opposite angle, then it's not a flat Earth anymore.
If you take a flat Earth angle measurement, you can show it doesn't work on a flat Earth.
Well, not that angle, but the opposite, the one that you didn't take. Yeah.
I see. But you did take it. You took it off a flat plane.
Well, yeah, we got them we got to accept that before we can move forward in the conversation, that the angle was possible to be taken, and you need a flat plane to do that. We have to accept that.
Gotcha. So if I was to argue this with you as a glober, I've got to accept first that Earth is flat to take the angle measurement, to then argue the toss about whether or not it works on a flat Earth.
Yeah.
Wow.
Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
How can you have a curve on a flat Earth?
You can't acquire an elevation angle from a curved surface.
Beat me by a second.
That depends. You need to qualify whether you want an actual answer or a modelic answer.
What's a modelic? What's that mean? Modelic?
In my model, there is one.
So it depends if I want an answer in physical reality aligned with physics, or a reification fallacy aligned with some model that you think is the world that you're standing on when you describe it in model format, like the heliocentric sphere Earth world, for example.
Yeah.
Can I?
Well, hold on a second.
Okay, go on.
I was going to say that model used angle measurements to be created, though. So I don't know if you could even invoke the model to that.
Well, no, you can. You can invoke the model, but a wider appreciation of what is typically reified into the world we're standing on is based on an understanding that the model itself is derived from flat Earth elevation angle measurements. So you might appreciate the beauty that is the model known as heliocentrism, and also understand that that model is only in existence because we took flat Earth angles.
Can I show the modelic model?
But you gotta understand, if I receive the model after that's already been done, and I'm not told that that's done, then it's still true.
It's not true. It's just easier to reify into your physical existence as though you're standing on a sphere with antipodal positioning and gravity and bending space-time and all those other things that are reified into existence after the fact. If, as you describe, and I describe, people are unaware that the model has only come into existence because you're able to take angle measurements off a flat plane that we actually stand on, and that is precisely how celestial navigation is performed, proving how the model's been derived in the first instance from a flat plane, and how when functioning on the plane of the Earth, you must use flat Earth elevation angle measurements to do so. It's just a fact.
May I reify the model with the slide in Master B?
Yeah, sure. Got it?
Hello, everyone.
Hey, Brian.
Hey, Brian.
Got you. It's the one with the curved adjacent, but also a right angle also, which makes no sense.
Yeah,
But
yeah. Let's just go to the underlined version. You can read the rest later. And what's below the underlined version. Whenever you take a sight of the sun, you are one corner of a large triangle. It's a right triangle. The difference being that the bottom of this one is not a straight line, but an arc. And it's not just any old arc. This particular arc is a great circle track between you and the point on the Earth that is directly under the sun, a point known by the name geographical position, but usually seen as an abbreviation GP. Now, as you probably know, great circle arcs can be measured in degrees, and it is a happy fact, it's hard to read this and watch the pictures at the same time, that in this bulgy bottomed triangle, the number of degrees in the arc defined by the bulge is equal to the number of degrees in the angle at its top, where the sun is, because this is a right triangle. The two acute angles add up to 90 degrees, and thus the top angle is equal to 90 degrees minus the angle at your corner. The angle you measure with your sextant. So taking a sextant shot of the sun and subtracting it from 90 degrees, this is hard, you can find out how far you are from the point on the Earth that is directly underneath the sun. Isn't it amazing what you can do with a couple of mirrors and a little trig?
that's planar trig, number one. Planar trig. Number 2, if as he describes the arc of the angle measured is an arc, it's not an angle measurement. And that's what he's saying. This bulge is a bulge. But then it won't give you an angle anymore. What's this bit? Oh, it's the angle you measure from the boat? Well, then this can't be a bulge. Oh, and it isn't in your diagram. You've got a 90-degree box on it, and you go through some waffle about how it's a bulge, but simultaneously capable of giving you an angle measurement. So this is double-speak rhetoric that the people... This is the best they can appeal to, isn't it? You've taken the wind out of their sails here, haven't you, 10th? Because this is about as good as it gets for them.
Oh, Proto. How did you go astray, Proto?
It's worse than that. Come on, John.
I was just going to say, like, the dotted line that they create as an imaginary, I'm throwing, like, the quotations on imaginary, that's actually the angle. That's the ground. And then they draw this curve in like that's supposed to mean something, you know?
But it's worse than that because they have to have a 90 at the GP of the celestial body and a GP, and the observer's position underneath the boat. That's 2 90s. So they draw a curved line between that. And why are they drawing a curved line? Because they're using a great circle route. Now, great circle routes are limited in the directions they take. But ships do sail in directions that airplanes don't. So that means ships do use routes that are not great circle routes. Unless they use great circle routes, and then that makes it extremely difficult for it to be a globe, because that means they avoid going across the South Pacific.
Occasionally, Brian can be quite irritating, and it's because he's very, very learned. He knows what he's talking about, and his point's valid, and it's legit, and I know every word he's just said is correct. But he's essentially latched onto the straw man red herring in this description comprising of doublespeak. So I first give you props for knowing, but also say, how is it relevant when what they're describing in the formatting of a great circle route completely defies what they state in the next sentence and in the diagram when they've got a box showing a 90 degree? Makes no sense. I'm glad that you've said it. Don't ever take me to be saying this to be a reason to not do that, because that's not what I'm driving at. It's just driving the point home to the audience that even with this knowledge that Brian has, exceptional that it is, it's a red herring. You need 90. They're describing needing 90. They're showing how it's done with 90, but saying, but actually it's a curve. And that's justified how? Well, because they're saying the curve that you measure corresponds to the curve on the ground. But you're not measuring a curve on the ground, are you?
Well, all I'd say, right, I'm not really saying it in my defense, because you are correct, right? I know that you're correct. And I deserve what I get. But what I would say is the point I'm making about these great circle routes is they're no different than the longitude lines on the Gleason's map. As in, when you flatten them out, right? Now, not all of them are longitudinal distances, but the majority of great circle routes are basically longitudinal distances, north, south, south, north, right? When you flatten them out, they're exactly the same length, right? But the routes that they don't take are all the things that are not great circle routes. They're all the things that are not the same length once flattened out. So all the routes that they don't take on their globe, right? I'm just saying, hypothetically, on their globe, are all the routes that are not the same length when flattened out. That means they're moving in straight lines and claiming curves. That's kind of what I'm saying.
No, I get it totally. Perfectly valid. And I didn't know that. You know, I didn't know it even though I've covered it. Covered it with Martin in terms of ships getting there earlier based on the distances that they're calculating. And there'll be a mad discrepancy between the time they estimate they're going to take and the time they actually take. And it can be out by a significant amount. And you're like, well, hold on, they've got charts. They know their hull speed. Surely they'd know within an hour of when they're going to arrive. Not within 4 or 5 days or arriving in port 2 or 3 days early. That should just not happen.
Yeah, well, what's his name? I keep forgetting his name, but he's a flat earther. Geez, he's around with at least since 2016, if not 2015. But he was a Navy guy in the U.S. Navy, and he said that every time they were in the southern, let's say, the south of the equator and going across the Pacific, they were always late when they were getting to where they were going. And when they were in the north, going what should have been a similar distance, they ended up doing an exercise called boxing.
Yeah,
which
boxing.
Is
Exactly. I've had these.
Yeah.
I can't remember who it was I interviewed about this. It's probably the same guy. I'd have to go back through some of these old interviews that have now vacated my brain as other stuff's pushed them out. But yeah, boxing. Exactly. They can't go into port. There's other ships there. So what do? They go around in a square over and over again to kill time. Why? Well, because they're early. Why are they early? Well, because they estimated they'd get there in 8 days and they arrived in 6. Why? Well, I don't know. Obviously, because the charts are really, really accurate, right? No, well, clearly not.
Exactly.
There we go.
But
We get
that's
told about these great circle routes, but when we're actually talking about the very accurate method of celestial navigation and its use of 90 degrees below the star or celestial object that you're measuring, they then interject with this, well, we've really got a curve on this angle that needs to be 90. It's really curved, honest. It's like, what kind of a crap? Where was that from, by the way, 10th?
This is from a yachting magazine, and they always have contributors that are either surveyors or navigators or professors of schools teaching celestial navigation, and I've posted many before.
Sure. What's the name of the book exactly?
Let me get the cover. I'll be back.
Perfect, because this is the gold standard now, fundies, on the anti-flat earth side. This is what you've got to try and do in your language, in your linguistic ability when you get here and try and argue that somehow the flat earth-based, planar trig-based methodology of using 90 below a star, that's a flat earth measurement of an angle, to a 90 that must be at 90 in parallel to your position, all flat earth proofs, every single thing I just said proves earth's flat. You've got to then somehow fudge the language to make it clear that you're going to be getting a 90, as this diagram depicts, but also somehow say, but it's still curved. This crap, frankly, doublespeak is as good as it's got so far. So hopefully 10th will get you the book, and you can start practicing and polishing up on your doublespeak rhetoric that says, yeah, of course we'll get 90, that's how we measure the angle. But it's still curved, like this heap of garbage has just managed to attempt with its doublespeak.
Yeah, and they have to use a route that will ensure that the distance will be equal once it's straightened. They can't use a route that will show that the distance will be different.
Right, once it's flattened out, once it's straightened out, if they're assuming that they've got sphericity to deal with on their great circle, making this flat, straight line that must be to do this trig curved. But ultimately speaking, as we're describing, when you actually take a shortest distance, that's a straight line, they're implying that these curved lines are straight. That's going to cause problems, and does. But ultimately, the method, when it's working, and it has worked long before any reference to a globe, we've got plenty of citations to show how this method was used long before claims of Earth curve horizons. And it did the same thing. 90 degree below the star was the same exact method. Work then, work now.
Well, the only thing to go to is you can't measure angles from Earth, and celestial navigation doesn't work, I guess.
Exactly. They're fighting celestial navigation at this point, John. They're not fighting us anymore. They're fighting against a long-established method that is used to this day. People keep sextants on aeroplanes just in case, so that they can find their way around in the worst possible scenario without GPS, without whatever they've lost that they needed to get to where they were going. If they lose their position, they can still acquire it. They've still got these little hatches on the top of planes, so they can use this tool with a bubble to acquire horizontal and then measure an angle.
Well, you know, when you first come to flat Earth, or used to, like with the Black Swan argument, you're trying to explain to people how it's flat, right? Now you have the anti-flat earthers seeing all these descriptions of how it's flat, and they're still trying to convince themselves how it's a globe. So, like, the tables have definitely turned.
You think?
So I looked into this fallacy some more. You guys are never going to believe where it leads.
Go on. Oh, this sounds juicy.
Okay, so this This reminded me of the first cause fallacy, where you just skip past the first cause and then just keep going, right? So you require the precedent, right? So like an antecedent requirement. Basically, an antecedent means anti-first cause, right? So it's called precursor error. So it's assuming a set of circumstances where an error is subsumed into the outcome because it's necessarily going to produce an error no matter what you do. Okay? So everyone following so far?
Yeah, can you repeat that, please? Yes, I did follow, but repeat it anyway, please.
Okay, it's the set of circumstances required to get you where you're going has an error factor within it that will be expressed if you follow those circumstances out. So it's an error that will occur if you set the baseline here and then you perform the function. You will have an error no matter what.
Okay, so as an example,
so
you're deciding that you're going to take a journey, and the journey is 100 miles long, and you calculate that because you've got a tiny battery capacity in the vehicle that you've chosen to use, you're going to have to charge X amount of times, and you calculate it all out, show the charts, show the stops. But the problem is that you're talking about a remote control car that has 0 passenger capacity. But you carry on with your premise anyway, like you're going to be able to make this journey. You carry on with the flaw in your logic that the premise it's all based on is using a remote control car that's 1/10 scale or something. So you've got this flaw in your premise, and you say, yeah, let's ignore the fact that we are not physically capable of getting in this bloody car and focus on, now that we're in the car, how are we going to make this journey? Let's work out how many times we've got to charge it, how far we've got to go, how long it's going to take. Ignore the fact we can't do it.
Well, ain't they doing the opposite of that, though?
You could come up with many, many examples, but the thing is that the initial conditions produce the error in the end. So it's called an error precursor, or the precursor error, or I want to say precedent or antecedent error. But another name for the precursor is the proto. So this fallacy is literally could be called the proto fallacy.
Isn't that ironic that Proto-Thad came to argue this? Wow.
Maybe that was on purpose. That might be why he named himself that.
Maybe. Or the guys over on JLB's forum can be talking about sync. We'll see.
Or God. God is literally the greatest troll in the universe.
Yeah.
It's the same problem that I mentioned to you the other day. Like, remember I told you that there's physicists that are abandoning the singularity because they realize that the singularity for the universe creates a first cause error, right? So instead of just running with their first cause error, they skip to the part where the universe is already a little bit bigger so that they don't have to answer the fact that they have an antecedent error, that they have a prototype error, that they have a precursor error built into their model.
Okay, so what you're talking about is the first law of thermodynamics violation, that is the Big Bang, right?
Yeah, or the classical interpretation of the first cause being, if time, space, and matter came from the Big Bang, then the cause must be immaterial, timeless, all of these things, which basically sound exactly like a God-type being.
Hold on, do you know what the maths is for that? There is actually mathematics for that.
Divide by 0.
Don't give it away. Oh, do you know what it is? He's just said it. You probably heard. Do you know what the maths is? That is their maths.
I'll give you a quote. Hold on, I'll give you the quote. I've got a quote from a guy. It's so perfect for this. Okay, so if you take all of the positive numbers into infinity and add them to all of the negative numbers into infinity, you get 0. Therefore, something can come from nothing.
Yep. John, you stole my thunder, so you can now give the actual mathematics.
Well, you just take any number and divide by 0, and you have it, the beginning.
Yeah, divide by 0, get everything in existence. That's correct.
Yeah.
On a calculator,
and if you do it 5 times, you have 5 universes.
Yeah, well, you get everything, including any parallel universes that want to sandwich here in after the fact, if they need to move away from the error in the first instance. That's what they're doing. That's all they've ever done. It's the layers. It's a web of lies, but I like to call it the heliocentric smear of bullshit. They see a crack in the lie, that somebody's widening. There's us there with our pickaxes widening open this crack. They come and just fill it in with another layer of bullshit.
Can you buy a house if you divide by 0 a down payment that you never give?
You get everything in existence, according to, the reification of the Big Bang. It's a first law of thermodynamics violation in the first instance. You can't get, if energy cannot be created or destroyed, you can't have everything in terms of all of the energy in the known universe come from nothing. If it's a first law violation.
If I've got one ice cream and I decide to share it amongst no people, there isn't an infinite amount of ice cream. It's a conception, a mathematical conception that they have to invent to be able to continue solving the problems. If you realise that actually it's nonsense, then you can't solve the problem mathematically. So you have to come up with something, get an 8 really drunk so it falls over, and use that.
Now, come on, Adam. You know that if you're going to divide your ice cream by 0, that means you have infinite ice creams to distribute among 0 people.
I just want to give Adam props, because Adam's taken it to the... If you've got something that's bullshit, you need to wrap it up or, polish that dog turd, at least roll it in a bit of glitter. And rather than saying divide by 0, get everything. Now, that could lead your average layman to scratch his head and go, hang on a second. So instead, the description we got from Citation Police earlier was, no, that's not how they describe it. How they actually describe it, and I'm going to use this, it's great, is you take all of the positive numbers into infinity and all of the negative numbers into infinity, and then once you've got those combined, you've got 0. So therefore, out of 0 has come quite a lot of stuff. Infinite amount of stuff, in fact. So that's how you're going to write this wrong. That's how you're going to square that circle. Just by using infinity, another conception. just beggars belief, really. But it sounds beautiful, doesn't it? Because tell me that doesn't sound awesome.
Well, it's wrong because you've used an infinite amount of numbers. You've still got nothing.
Put a different emphasis on it. Say infinite, and it'll sound much more magical.
Use an infinite amount of numbers, but you've still come out with nothing.
An infinite number? I mean, that's a huge number of numbers, Adam, to have come out of nothing. I mean, it's like, you could base the entire world off that, Adam. I don't know what you're talking about. How is that wrong?
No, not come out of, end up with nothing.
The output was nothing.
It never became anything.
That's where it goes, actually, in the maths. But we'll get there later. Carry on, Adam.
Well, it was only ever conceptualized as an infinite amount of numbers. The reality is it was always 0. Just you conceptualize it in a way to recreate 0 with a infinite amount of numbers, yeah? But there never was there. It was only in your mathematical derivation. And you never had all the numbers. You only ever had a concept of an infinite amount of numbers.
It only has to work in maths, though, doesn't it?
Well, we're talking about creation, and it'd be nice if it worked in reality, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but I'm describing something that's happened a long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. So, I mean...
probably my mind's too small.
I thoroughly agree. You just don't understand. You haven't got the capacity to really even consider this, Adam. None of us have. So I defer to all scientists. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
I just want to say that Adam's a flat earther, so he wouldn't be able to understand that.
Yeah.
Couldn't possibly know.
Right.
Don't worry your little head about it. Flat earther.
Yeah, your little flathead.
Lots of other cleverer people have done all that worrying for you.
That is the state of play. That is the consensus reality that we are faced with in the Western world. As much as we mock it in jest, that is actually the world that you live in if you're a globe believer. I mean, it's far, far removed from the abject hell that an anti-flat earther currently lives in. But nevertheless, that is the reality of a normie glober, isn't it? Let's be honest. That is what we are describing. That's your reality. Well, there's a lot of smarter men than me that know. And I'm not going to worry my little head about it.
Did you guys just say Adam's whole entire life has amounted to 0?
No.
As soon as I declared myself a flat earther, society nullified any achievements.
I do have another good quote that applies to that thing we were previously talking about, which was mainly in the regards to atheistic arguments versus naturalism and special creation. So it basically goes, if you give me one free miracle, then I can explain how the universe is explained without miracles.
Yep, that's get your own dirt joke.
Well, I'll tell you what. Give me some flat Earth angle measurements, and I can show you a globe.
Yeah, give me a flat Earth angle measurement, and I'll give you a globe. That's perfect. Copyright Nathan Oakley, 1980.
Hey, as much as proto fallacy is a very poignant name, we could also call it the free miracle fallacy.
Hold on a second. I'm getting some angry messages from Brian saying that he came up with that at least 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, but listen, 2 weeks from now, I'll retcon the record that I came up with it 3 weeks ago.
Just as long as 10th Man isn't getting any credit for any of this, I'm okay.
I especially like it when he presents an image and then we totally hijack it and talk about it over the top of him and potentially even shut him down while he's waiting to do the presentation on the image he's put up. That's the best scenario ever.
Excellent.
I don't mind being zero.
Did we want to spend a few minutes blowing smoke up 10th Man's ass? No, let's move on.
Hey, hang on. I posted the cover of that article and the author in Masterby, as you asked.
Okay, so it is Cruising World.
That's Nathan Oakley.
Are we? Sorry, is this for real? This is a publication called Cruising World with a topless little boy on the cover. Okay.
Oh yeah, the whole article's in there.
Okie dokie.
That's
just
the
take
image
that off
of
screen.
Nathan Oakley.
Okay, so I've got to say this now. Hold on. For the anti-flat earthers, Cruising World is your globe gold standard. So you need to go and pick up a copy of Cruising World so that you can polish up on your curved adjacent with 90-degree argument as they presented it, because that's about as good as it's got so far for you, the anti-flat earthers. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Well, you'd have to come up with a couple of joule radii values for a globe first through the union. And that would require flat Earth elevation angles to Polaris.
No, hold on, though. Gravity is Newtonian gravity is the thing that's keeping the solar system and the galaxy together mathematically.
There we go.
So what else, could keep it together than Newtonian gravity? It has to exist.
Hold on.
Why is that also not a first law violation?
Energy can't be created or destroyed, so therefore Newtonian gravity can't apply to a flat Earth acquisition of an hour value reified into a heliocentric model. Is that good enough paraphrasing?
Well,
I was talking to Eli. He's gone quiet.
I mean, I guess.
Good enough.
Well, Anthony had an interesting article yesterday that he showed. The idea of action at a distance that Newtonian proposed is process impossible in the Baller's religion.
Is that not partially what we have pseudo force space for?
And it's just philosophical sidetracking, right? I'm sorry, but the entire universe model, whenever it's modeled out, whenever they apply maths, it's to a Newtonian gravity base. So you can think of gravity whatever you want. They're using it. It's right there. If it wasn't there, they literally would have nothing to even look at.
Have you had to deal with somebody denying this or something, Arwin? Because, the reason it's in the housekeeping question is because it's a fundamental premise of the heliocentric model as you're laying out. So is somebody currently denying it because we've debunked it? The reason we ask for scientific evidence is because it's absolutely claimed to be in the model. We know that they claim gravity. I mean, it's been a while since there's been fundies here, Arwin, but gravity is something that they chant ad nausea because it's part of their model. And we say, okay, well, where's the physical evidence of it? That would be scientific evidence. The physics. Somebody
they don't
denying
have
gravity?
any.
What's going on? Why would you say that? I'm intrigued.
Well, they can't let it go, even though it's not claimed to be the official gravity, right? And nobody claimed that, but they still have to have it because otherwise they couldn't even like work out their model. They couldn't do it without Newtonian gravity.
I got you. You're highlighting the fact that a partial reason is because Anthony's being discussed that they don't and cannot relinquish the Newtonian gravity aspect of the model, in spite of it being. Hey, Anthony, pay attention to this. In spite of it being out of date and superseded, is because it's holding their model together in the truest sense of the word. It can't be relinquished, is what Arwen's saying.
Exactly. It's the glue that keeps that keeps the art piece together.
I don't know why you're laughing. It is glue. You laugh because it's a sniggery metaphor, because but it is acting like glue. That's not a bad word, Arwen.
Nathan, let me interject right there because it's perfect. So they tried to model gravitational accretion with Newtonian gravity, and they had to add an additional factor beyond Newtonian gravity. Guess what they called it?
Go on.
A stickiness factor.
Stickiness.
A stickiness factor.
There you go.
So even Newtonian, even the Newtonian glue still needs extra glue.
I love it. Gravitational accretion being the formation of the existence of all rocks in the sky that are now in an orbital mechanical motion derived from an hour value that they got from a flat plane. Just saying.
Yeah, that stickiness factor is the same factor that holds the atmosphere to the rotation of the Earth. Even though, well, yeah, I'll end it there.
Well, that is kind of where it ends, so not a bad point to put a full stop or an underline. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth? Nope, just Darwin clearing his throat.
No, that wasn't me. Kent Hovind was on, by the way, yesterday night again, trying to defend the globe system. It's so funny every time he tries that.
Oh, has anybody let Kent know that the model was derived from flat Earth elevation angle measurements? That he only has that model of a conception of an Earth that isn't capable of reification, but obviously he is, without first having flat Earth angle measurements to get it? Has nobody let him know? Maybe somebody should let Kent know that the flat Earth was required to develop that globe model that he now reifies.
Well, apparently he's going to have a debate with Simon Dan soon. Ooh.
About what? Oh,
what
presumably
about that it's a ball?
About creationism.
No. That'll be where they agree.
That's what I mean. No, it's a random ball. No, it's a God-made ball. No, it's a random ball. No, God made the ball.
No, the ball was made by flat Earth angle measurements. Did you have something to say, Rocky? Is it Rocky, 1973?
Right, yeah, Kent is very funny. He's the only guy that I've ever heard online actually attempt, from an honest perspective, to make an argument for the molten iron core. It's the only one to date that I've ever seen doing that.
What I mean by that is...
Hold on one sec, Adam. Hold on, just one sec. What did you want to add? Rookie or Rocky?
I was just saying I didn't know you unmuted me. I didn't know I was open. Sorry about that.
Oh, no, don't apologise. That's okay. Sorry, Adam, go ahead.
All right. Just in reference, you see all these people, and a lot of them have got a lot. We talk about David Wilcock, or the sci-fi people, or the alien people. If you look at Kent and the way he's argued against evolution with his Bible, have all the people that you think it would be easy to make a switch and go, you know what? Actually, not only is there not this lack of evidence, there is this lack of evidence, but actually, if I go to the thing that I've always used, my Bible, to back me up, that's backing me up. And he's a funny one. I don't get. I thought by now he would have...
Me too, Adam.
Not be so vociferous against it. Do you know what I mean? That's the...
Yeah, he's the tricky one, that one. I figured by now he'd latch on. Nope, he fights against it.
Don't you think he's got an easy get out card? Oh no, I should have read my Bible properly. Bosh. Do you know what I mean? And away he goes. He moves forwards. But
Adam, it's pride. Pride.
Neil's very passionate about Kent Hovind, Adam.
I loved Kent Hovind back in the day.
So did I.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah,
he said a lot of stuff that challenged the mainstream narrative. It woke a lot of people up. You don't necessarily stay there, but he was somebody that 20 years ago you're looking at, and he's appraising this thing with a critical thought method, and he's using scripture, admittedly, but the way he convinced me is his critical thought, attacking the dinosaur stuff, showing that there's no science in there, that there's a lack of evidence, that it's a construct. And
right. Fossils, the nature of fossils, how it can quickly fossilize. I learned that from him.
Yeah. And yet he's doing everything he's criticized other people with regards to evolution for with this Bohr model still. I just find it strange that he's not taken it's not that he's ignoring the subject. You know, I was talking about David Wilcott. He just stayed away from it. That was 4 years ago, by the way, that thing, Nathan. I checked it. But yeah, like just that he's actually having a go at it, and now joining in with ballers to attack flat earthers. That's a very
Adam.
thing.
I can answer to this specifically in Christian apologetics.
1 second. Can I say one thing? He's keeping a lot of Christians from discovering the flat earth too, because he's got a big following.
Okay, go ahead, citation, please.
Okay, so the theory of the Big Bang and all of this stuff is essentially a mathematical presentation of the phenomenal world, right? And we know that mathematics is based on, reason, logic, and these types of things. So when you create an elegant theory that's backed by mathematics, right, which requires information, intelligence, and all this type of stuff, it appears at face value to be a good proof that sentient minds exist, sentient minds cause information, et cetera, et cetera. So you could check that mark on the theist side. The same thing with the Big Bang. Now, when you retro-engineer the Big Bang back to its first cause, famous Christian apologists will argue, okay, in order to have a Big Bang, you need something immaterial, something, all-powerful because it has greater power than the universe, et cetera, right? And you end up with a category of a being that is immaterial, all-powerful, eternal, and sentient, right? So again, an elegant proof of the first cause creator, being a God-style being. So you could see the appeal to Christians when they're presented that this stuff is scientifically validated. Oh, that's easy. Based on what I just told you, that just proves God, right? And now there are famous apologists who are super good at math. One in particular is Hugh Ross. He has all this math about how the world is now, mathematically, right? And about how we're in the most perfect time in the history of the universe to be able to peer back into the moment of creation as if God was showing us a lens into his work, right? Very poetic when you hear that. So it's compelling, for sure. But even within all that, they're still basing the authority that they're coming from on man's interpretation of the world and putting the Bible on the back seat. For example, everything in Genesis is like backwards to what mainstream science says. So it's like, who are you going to believe, and where does your faith really lie?
A Jesuit priest named George the Slave Matrix. That's who created that.
I see your point, citation.
That's where it starts and ends.
Kent Hovind doesn't accept the bin.
But like with mathematics, the only way you can, it's just a dynamic language. And if you have concepts within that language that are incorrect, you'll come to incorrect conclusions. It's just like anything else, like a geometric horizon or anything else. If you're not using concrete, dynamic measurements, then you don't have anything. You're just babbling.
Here's a question I have for the for the people that believe in the Big Bang or even using math, how does a mathematical description make a change?
It
You
doesn't.
understand the nature of my question?
A mathematical description is not an independent variable.
Right. You know, so something to change or move, a choice has to be made. Either, well, actually, I take that back. Either the explanation has to be within itself or exterior to itself. And how can something within itself change without a choice being involved?
Right. So to qualify that in terms of what would make it such, I make it an independent variable, it's got to be real. It's got to be your presumed cause of an effect in this experiment context. And it's got to be physically capable of manipulation by the researcher. Well, when you're talking about a mathematical description of something, how does that ascribe a cause to something else? It doesn't. It's just a description. It's conceptual.
But even in that, though, I mean, you can describe either an agent involvement or non-agent involvement in a change or a cause of something. And mathematical descriptions can't necessarily do that.
Yeah. But you can invent things. You can describe things that don't ever exist and don't ever need any reason to show in physical reality. They can exist only in the model and in the concept. And often, they do. They're invented to solve problems within the models and concepts. So you have these invented terms, you can have an invented dimension. And we do. Pseudo-4 space. That'd be space-time. Just an invented conception from mathematics that's conventions and ideas and not physics, not reality. They just conjure this stuff into existence with descriptions in maths.
And then they can prove it in the maths, so it has to be true. Like backwards. In Red Dwarf.
That's where I was going with Arwin earlier when he was talking about eventually it'll go back to zero. Well, that is actually part of Stephen Hawking's descriptions in terms of the Great Crunch, right? Eventually you'll reach a point of mass expansion and it'll have to start that process in reverse. Now, the natural effect of that, if you describe it in that manner, is you have time going backwards in the heliocentric model when you have the Great Crunch and then all of the time it all collapsing basically out from where it's got to the maximum.
Well, you have everything except for the measurements. Let's put it that way.
And if they do have a measurement, it'll have come from a flat plane in the first place.
Exactly.
Yeah, but all those descriptions, right, they're not based in reality. The measurement is when you combine your observation and mathematics to give you a unit of change, right?
In other words, you take something that you've physically observed or physically run a tape measure down, and the tape measure is your qualification to be able to describe it to the next man. But that's working within the convention to give a description to something you've done physically, as opposed to taking a convention and conjuring something that doesn't exist physically.
Right. So there's a distinct difference between the two. And if you want to take an angle measurement, you need a flat baseline.
I just want to make a statement because it's coming from our opposition, starting with Prototad. I don't know if you've looked at the maths that he put up to me last night for a right angle triangle on a flat plane. Him and I have others doing the same now in chat, on different people's videos, asking me, how come the complement angle is blah, blah, blah. I just want to state that all these people are claiming that the internals of a right angle triangle, because that add up to more than 180 degrees on a flat plane. That's what they're claiming.
So they're asking you how the complement, that would be the angle measured off a flat plane, works on a flat plane. Is that correct?
Well, they're claiming, due to Prototad's maths that I posted into a couple of places last night, they're claiming that the angles add up to more than 180 degrees on a flat plane.
But they're measured on a flat plane. So you're saying after they've been measured on a flat plane, he then takes those flat Earth angle measurements and says that they add up to more than 180. I mean, that fascinating red herring doesn't have anything to do with the fact that we have actually got 90 degrees in the process of measuring that angle on a flat plane that he's talking about. So when you apply it to celestial navigation, you definitely have 90 at the GP of the star, as is always detailed in all the celestial navigation books. But he's saying when I take those flat Earth angle measurements, they don't add up to 180? What kind of nonsense is this?
Yeah, but he's stating that nowhere in any of the navigational books or writings or websites or anywhere does it say anything about a right-angled triangle. And he's stating that we're only making that up, it's our invention, and that the right-angled triangle on a flat Earth adds up to more than 180 degrees. Anything that's more than 180 degrees is not, for a start, triangle. And it's certainly not a right-angled triangle.
Okay, I don't really understand this, because the proof that we're presenting is how celestial navigation is used, and they do use a horizontal, they do use two straight lines, and they do have 90 degree.
Did I not post an article?
Hold on, who is this actually fighting against is what I'm trying to establish with Brian, because it sounds like it's positioned against Brian, but it sounds more like what's being charged at Brian is actually an attack on how celestial navigation is actually done. Am I right, Brian, or am I missing something?
No, that's exactly it. That's what I have to say. They keep at the moment with him as the four person, keep trying to build the same straw man. They keep trying to tell us that we're making stuff up and this is just our claims, ignoring the fact that it's celestial navigation's claims.
I've been posting for 2 years articles like the one I did this morning. It says a right angle triangle. It is the basis of celestial navigation. The minute they say 90, they're agreeing with all that. What's a 90? My goodness, these people are mental.
They show it in videos. They show what they do every step of the process in videos and diagrams and everything. It's like, and our opposition are now claiming that a right-angled triangle is not used by celestial navigation, and how celestial navigation can't work on a flat Earth because a right-angled triangle adds up to more than 180 degrees.
Yeah, well, it's the other way around. If you look at this diagram, what they are using is a right-angled triangle, and it doesn't fit on the curved surface, does it? So the problem that they're trying to spin is that the curved surface doesn't work with a triangle. No, that's correct, but you can't basically flip what is our claim and demonstrably the case as per this diagram. The triangle they do use, there it is on screen, doesn't fit on the curved surface. You can't have a curved adjacent, and this diagram shows that. Now, which bit of this diagram is the bit that they're actually performing? Well, the bit with the 90 degree and the two straight lines for the angle measurement. Ergo, it is actually functioning on a flat plane, but depictorially you can show it not working like this, with a curve that doesn't match the straight flat line you've measured. And you can even describe underneath how that's a great circle route that makes it not work when you are actually taking a flat Earth angle measurement. That is how it's being performed. So keep it up, Proto-Thad. Attack celestial navigation in an attempt to reposition it like it's our claim. But it's black and white. You have got a triangle. It does have 90 degrees at the GP and definitely doesn't fit with a curved surface as depicted here. Even with bullshit doublespeak attached, it simply doesn't function with planar trig. And that's what you're doing. Flat Earth trig. I'm hoping that, sorry to interrupt, but Citation Police, I'm hoping you'll go through is it called the proto-fallacy? Maybe Citation Police has disappeared just at that moment that I'm hoping he's paying attention.
Comment. They also, on the opposite side of what you just said, are saying you can treat great circle routes as a straight line. Now, think about that statement.
Well, you're going to be using a straight line, so they've got to weasel in somehow that you can treat this claim to be curved, not working with triangulation or the flat Earth planar trig. You can treat it as curved, but that ultimately means it's straight, by the way. That's the kind of crap that they'll weasel in when they've got to correct to straight and flat, because that's how the planar trig's going to work. Planar being flat Earth.
My point is this. They're saying there are no right angle triangles, and yet we keep posting in celestial navigation that's how it is. Then on the opposite side saying, but we need that adjacent to be straight on the great circle routes because we treat those as straight lines, but we don't want to use them for the right angle triangle. You can't have your cake and eat it too, my goodness.
No, they're using methodology and rhetoric, right? That's all they're doing. They're trying to confuse the two. I don't know if it's intentional, but because they drew that curved line on that one diagram, they're trying to say, see, it's still a sphere, even though we needed the flat plane to get the angle measurements.
Or even though it doesn't match with the measurement that we're describing you functionally doing. Look, the diagram shows how you got a curvy line where the bent line that you're using is.
Right, your methodology requires a flat plane, but your rhetoric has a sphere. That's pretty much it.
You there, Citation Police? Clearly not.
Brian is here, if that's any good. I step in for a minute.
Well, he went through,
if that's any good.
He went through the proto fallacy, I think it was called, but he's disappeared now. I was hoping he'd repeat it before I round out the live show and ask everyone to stay tuned.
I just say before you round out the live show, in case proto doesn't turn up, what they're actually trying to do is reposition the reality of celestial navigation. They're trying to create straw man arguments and wrangle in character assassination attempts. And that's what they're at. Because what Proto is claiming is that the distance in miles will be greater on a flat plane using right-angle triangles. Like completely ignoring that it's the degrees of minutes that is measured across the sky that then become the nautical miles. He has some crazy calculation where the nautical mile distance will be greater along a flat plane. He must be using some kind of weird or some kind of dodgy spherical trig within that or something. He has some kind of a begging the question fallacy in there somewhere. But that's what he's at.
It's just as described. So he's charging you with an account you need to make for the flat Earth elevation angle measurements after they've been taken and how they function and perform. That would be how the flat Earth angle measurements perform on a flat Earth. He says they don't work.
Yeah, he's saying that they don't do it that way. He's saying that he's trying to name out things like quartermasters 2 and 3, I think it is, and I think it was Jacobi's. Some of Jacobi's writings. They don't mention anything about any triangles or right triangles in them. And he's trying to say we only make all that stuff up, and this is maths to show that the distances in nautical miles will be greater on a flat plane, completely ignoring the whole process.
So chapter 6, the Sextant, where Harold Jacobi says it's a right angle, 90 degrees. He didn't say that then.
According to Prototad.
How many times have we posted that thing?
Well, let me try to formulate it for Protothad. It's basically, you dumb flatties don't understand that the angle measurement, which required a flat plane, that was taken on a flat plane, if you take that angle measurement and go to the opposite side of that triangle that you say exists, and you change that angle, but you didn't measure, then the measurement you took is invalid on a flat plane.
With that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching live, this is where we bid you farewell. So a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the PayPal link, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on a Premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
He's trying to use like basic trigonometry by plugging numbers in. Doesn't work like that.
Where is he going? What point? Because that's what I told him. I told him he doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't even understand what the elevation angle is and its purpose and how it's used. I told him his maths are all completely wrong for that purpose. Might be rightly different for some other way, but for that purpose, they're completely wrong.
I'm going.
Well, after you calculate the elevation angle by any means necessary, that's all you got to say.
It's a lie, though, isn't it? It's measured.
Yeah, it's lie. It's measured, right?
That's it. They've got to lie about the bits that prove a flat Earth, and in this case, the angle measurement. If they can say you acquire it by any means possible, they can count pixels and say they got it off a curved adjacent. They can do whatever they like. In reality, you're measuring two straight lines. An elevation angle proves a flat Earth in the first instance. So if they can just get to that angle without it being measured by way of a flat plane, then they're golden, because they've managed to whistle past the devastating fact they need a flat Earth to get it.
They have whistled past that in this. They seem. I'm trying to figure out what they're saying. They seem to be saying, if you can't just use standard GCSE trigonometry when doing celestial navigation, then the Earth's a globe. This appears to be the argument that's being presented. I'm not sure. It's a bit like what Ruif was doing, trying to pin some kind of, let's say, schoolwork trigonometry question into the nuances of celestial navigation, and not using the stars either. They're using the ground as if, like I say, it's a very odd straw man, but that appears to be it. If you can't solve
Brian,
that way, then it's a ball.
They have an error because the set of circumstances that they used at the outset assumes the error which they need to get the conclusion. So there's an error there.
What's that fallacy called? I tried to get you to say it right at the end of the live show to round out the live show.
The precursor, it's called the precursor error, but the word for precursor could also be origin, so an origin error. So it's the proto error. So we'll call it, for sake of the argument, the proto error in honor of Protothad.
It's the proto error fallacy.
So there's an error that's going to happen, period. It's going to be expressed. So they assume that the error is with the ground rather than with their interpretation of what the sky is doing. And it's just a preferential frame of reference to explain the error. And then they say, okay, I have an error and I fixed it by curving the ground. Therefore, the ground is curved.
And paradoxically, when they did that, it invalidates the angle measurement they took in the first instance because it's no longer an angle. So their apologetics,
which is the precursor. The precursor they require, they have to deny.
Right.
And just interestingly enough, Thad, as an Urban Dictionary, is a unique or musical creature with lots of emotional and mental baggage.
You guys, I just want to take a moment for us all to recognize that the poetic nature of this argument simply writes itself.
But do you feel, Citation Police, that they can come and accept that as a premise to relieve any pain, as we phrase it? So they come and they say, okay, if I accept the Earth is flat, I can then use the angles I got from the flat Earth to then bend the ground, invalidating the angle I took to prove the Earth's a sphere. Do you think that can actually function as pain relief or a convincing argument for an outsider looking in? Because I don't think it does. In fact, I don't think there's a single person listening that would. You're conceding your point in the first instance. I can't believe I'm even asking this, but for us to phrase it in a way that says, no, this is a fallacious way of looking at this, implies that someone could look at it in this way and take it as a globe proof, right?
Right.
Who in their right mind could take the acceptance of the flaw within the argument, that is to measure stuff off a flat plane, to infer that you've got a spherical curving surface, the very surface you just measured as flat, that is?
I think it boils down to like that other kid that was in here the other day, Trulon, who he didn't want to face the consequences. He just wanted to accept that the modelic interpretation is equal, right? So they're positing the idea in their own minds when they engage with you, that you just have a belief about the interpretation of this, and I have a belief about the interpretation, and they're both equally valid. If they can tell themselves that they're both equally valid, then they're fine. They don't need to process any further.
Yeah, that dude came in with that, didn't he? I think it was Adam that pointed out that after looking at his website, the best he was going to attempt to achieve coming away with was a draw by saying you can interpret it any way you like, flat globe, hexagon, other than that they've all been derived from a flat plane elevation angle measurement to get to whatever value you input, in this case spherical, or flat earth as a muffle. But either way, you've still got to start with a flat plane angle measurement. I mean, that guy wouldn't entertain that. He was like, no, I'll have to go away and think about it. But
Adam stole that idea from me like 20 seconds before.
I think it was Brian that actually pointed that out first.
Can you go to the last two slides in Master B? The one would be the guy on the sailboat.
Yeah, I'm on that.
Usually it's Arwen that steals the thoughts of people.
Okay, so in this article,
I'm all stocked up today, so I don't need to.
So these two, Pinky and Perky, have just decided that before you get your second breath out, they're going to rumpus the entire thing with back and forth between Pinky and Perky. Did you want to tuck yourselves out, Neil and Arwen?
I said one thing. Stop the shit.
Arwen, go ahead.
I was just making fun of what he said.
Neil, go ahead.
Don't worry, I'm done for the day.
Arwen, after you. No?
Go ahead, Tim.
All righty then. In simplified terms, when we take a sextant altitude of the sun, we're creating a right angle triangle between it. This is from your own side. We're just quoting the documented evidence of how a sextant in celestial navigation works. This isn't the flat earther at the wheel of that sailboat. That lady with the sextant actually thinks she's on the globe, as you can see a straight horizontal right in front of her. Let's try it again. In simplified terms, when we take a sextant altitude of the sun, we're creating a right angle triangle between it, the Earth's surface at the GP, and ourselves. And to rub salt in it, grade school geometry tells us that the two angles in the right angle triangle must equal, don't say 90. Next slide. The sextant, Harold Jacobi. What does it say here? Right down at just below the middle part. The point directly overhead is the zenith. The angle between lines drawn to the horizon and zenith is 90. Could that be the same 90 from the previous article, or is that a different 90? Or a right angle? I'm done.
Yeah, they have to lie. If you're saying he's read this book and referencing they never say 90, no, it's not used. It's like, yeah, they do. But positioning it like it's a flat earther's claim about something they don't understand, and then talking about spherical trig in substitution for the actual methodology of celestial navigation. It's like, feel free to challenge these people who actually use celestial navigation with planar trig and tell them that they're not doing it wrong and they should be using spherical trig. Well, see how you get on, because these aren't our claims. We aren't documented. These aren't our books. These aren't our magazines. This is how it's done on a flat plane with flat earth angles measured to celestial objects. That's what we're doing if we're performing it. We being all of us. But if you want to attack celestial navigation and celestial navigators, then you feel free. I'm not one of them. Neither's Brian, as far as I'm aware. We're talking about how they and we would do it if we did it. But if you want to tell them that they're doing it wrong and they should be applying this spherical trig to the planar trig they actually do, feel free to tell them how they, who use the celestial navigation with flat Earth angles, are doing it wrong. You tell them. But don't tell me. I'm not interested.
Well, the spherical trig's a problem, though, because you couldn't get an angle from the surface. So that's going to be a problem if you're going to assert spherical trig.
And as I'm sure, like in this diagram, somebody who's actually using the angle measurement would point out, i.e., if you're going to try and double speak your way around the methodology, you'll describe in the methodology itself the 90 degree and the flat line and the angle that you're measuring from this boat, but you'll also draw a curve that doesn't work with any of that.
You also don't have the geometric horizon for the dip correction.
That isn't how dip correction's actually done, but when they infer that somehow dip correction is the implication of a geometric horizon we do not see, and they calculate for that correction, they're correcting it to flat.
Would it be safe to say that you can go to any institution that teaches mathematics, geometry, and say, please someone go on the chalkboard, draw me a 90-degree angle? What would they draw?
A right angle.
A right
Triangle.
angle, perpendicular. Perpendicular. Right. And then when you, the operator of a sextant, are looking at a star, that's called a line of sight. That's the hypotenuse. Right angle triangle every time you hold a sextant up, because the line of sight is hypotenuse.
Can I just, Nathan, I put Prototad's diagram into Masterpiece, if you wouldn't mind sharing it. Because I think I see what the trickery is here with him.
Okay, it's up.
If you just let me know when it's up. Thank you.
Yeah, it's up now.
I think, now I could be wrong in what I'm saying, this could be a stupid thing to say, but it seems to me that his second angle, where he shows the 50, he has a 25, which would be a 65-degree angle, and then he has a 40-degree angle. But his second complement angle, right, where he has one at the 65, which is 25, and one at the 40, which is 50, right, as they should be. But it's like he's starting his calculations for the second angle off of the slope of the first angle, as opposed to starting it from the right angle. If you understand what I mean. Adam, you may...
I do. I follow what you're saying. The only problem I see here is that we're referencing the angle taken from the star to the ground.
Yeah, but this is what I'm saying. Like he's not doing it the way it's done, which is you reference the angle to the star from the ground. He's doing this. This is the trick he's using. He's trying to use these complementary angles, and I think he's starting his second angle, so he's creating a 25-degree angle off of a slope, if you understand what I mean.
I can tell you what he's doing.
I do, but I just want to ask a question. I just asked Brian a question. You see where they got the... why isn't it clicking on it? There we go. You see where it's got 50 degrees and then half of that 25 degrees, yeah?
Yes.
At the top. That's the measured angle in this example, isn't it?
Well, yeah, that's where he measured.
Is it?
No, the measured angle.
No. Stop. That's where he measured it, because that's where he's labelled it being measured. 50 and 25. So this angle measurement's coming from what now?
Prototad.
No. In the diagram, where's this angle being measured from?
Up in the sky.
Sorry, we're measuring angles from up in the sky at a star to show how they're wrong on a flat Earth, are we? Is that the angles that we're talking about when we talk about how a flat Earth elevation angle proves we're on a flat Earth. It's this angle measurement from the star, as in this example, right? That's our argument, isn't it? Angles measured from stars.
That makes sense.
No, angles are measured from the surface you're on.
But this angle's referencing an angle coming from the star, though, isn't it?
Well, here, let me throw my 2 cents in here. He's got the first one, 65-degree elevation angle, minus from 90, gives you 25. 25 co-altitude times 60 nautical miles is 1,500 nautical miles. Fine. That's from the celestial navigation books. You don't do any measurements the way he does the next one. Notice the bottom where he's got 33.6 nautical miles and the arrow points to a sextant. No. You measure angle, elevation angle to the star. There's only one measurement each time. Okay, so what he's doing here, he's saying 40 is the elevation angle, minus from 90 is 50. 50 times 60 nautical miles should be 3,000 miles. But he's got written there 33.6 instead of 3,000 because he's trying to do something here that's never done.
Yeah, but it's worse again, because what he's doing is he's doing the first angle correctly, right? The first 65 degree is correct. That is what you would do. But then he's doing a switcheroo, and he's creating the second angle off of the slope of the first angle. So the second angle is not coming from the vertical of the right angle. The second angle is being created off the slope of the first angle. And it's all been done, that second angle is all being done from the sky.
Brian,
Yes,
where is the 3833.6 derived from? Is it just by adding the two together?
Well, yeah, from what I can gather, yes.
So then, in which case then, how has he derived 2333.6? Is this angular adjustment you're talking? What is it? So just
well, it seems to me, Adam, that he's starting his second angle off of the slope of the first one. So his second angle, which gives him a 40 and a 40 degrees, he's starting that off the slope of the first angle. He's not starting that off of the vertical of the right angle. I could be wrong, but that seems to be what he's doing. So the first angle is correct. Sorry, go on.
If you take 2333.6 and divide it by 60, then that brings out an angle of 38.89. So I don't understand where this. You'd need to clarify to me what this distance is that is not commensurate with what we've been saying and why he feels it is commensurate to use it and what it demonstrates.
It doesn't. It requires the first premise of the argument to be set down, which is that you don't know the height of the star. Because in this example, they're going to ascribe it as part of the triangle to be measured from at a given height. And then they show how that maths doesn't work, even though that's not what's being done in celestial navigation. It's a complete red herring.
Good.
Yeah, it's an avoidance of this. Sorry, John.
No, what Nathan just said was what I was getting ready to point out. If anything, this diagram proves that the star doesn't have an actual height.
Exactly. And that's what they start with. It's the weakest part of their argument in this straw man. Because it's not used. No one's acquiring the height of the star. Nobody's doing that. We're measuring the angle to it.
Sorry for a step on you, Nathan. And you too, John. What they're doing is back to the same age-old problem they have. And this is they're avoiding the surface. Because here they are taking angles from the sky back to the surface, as opposed to taking an angle off the surface to the sky. Back to avoiding the surface. Everything is avoid the surface because the surface is flat and they know it.
If I can finish what I was saying.
Yes, go ahead. I've got your diagram of S1, S2, S3.
You only do one angle measurement at a time, which gives you a circle of equal altitude. Then you spot star 2, do another angle measurement, gives you a second circle of equal altitude where they cross at 2 points. You do a third one, and where that one crosses at all three, then that is your fix. No one does the way he shows his thing there. Now, if you were to show that correctly, the first angle would be 65 degrees, and a circle from the GP would be drawn to the observer holding the sextant. He'd find star 2, and he'd get a 40-degree elevation angle and draw another one, and those two circles would cross, and he's at one of those 2 points.
He's not trying to get a fix in this diagram, Tony.
No, I understand.
Make a claim with regards to relationships.
No, I understand. What I'm trying to say, he doesn't know celestial navigation. He doesn't know what a right angle is. He doesn't know what 90 is. All he is here is to put stupid drawings that don't match what they do in celestial navigation. So I don't even pay attention to this nonsense. None of what he said I've ever seen in 2 years.
And with that, I'm going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. Also, below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. And this is a particular note if you drive an electric vehicle. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!